Welcome to Simple Things, where small stories spark big changes and growth begins with honesty.
People thought I was doing just fine. I had the job, the smile, the Instagram-worthy life. But the truth, every morning, I practiced my smile in the mirror because it was the only thing holding me together. I laughed at jokes I didn't hear, showed up to parties I didn't want to attend, and answered, "I'm good," even when my world was falling apart. I was smiling, but I was completely broken inside. I wasn't anyone special. I didn't grow up in chaos. I wasn't haunted by childhood trauma. I was just regular. Good grades, polite. People said I was well-adjusted, and I believed them because that's what I was trained to be: likable, dependable, low maintenance. In high school, I was the kid who stayed late to clean up after events, the one teachers trusted. I never made trouble. I learned early that being helpful made people happy, so I made that my role. I wore it like a badge. The good one, the strong one, the one who always smiled. By the time I entered adulthood, I had mastered the art of keeping everything in order. My career, fast-tracked. My social life, picture perfect. My relationships, healthy on the surface. I even had a go-to brunch spot and a favorite filter for my stories. But underneath all of that, beneath the polished surface, there was this faint but persistent emptiness, like background noise that never stopped humming. Sometimes I'd be sitting in a room full of people, laughing, engaged, nodding at all the right moments, and suddenly realize I felt absolutely nothing. I told myself it was just stress, that it would pass, that maybe I just needed a vacation, or more sleep, or better vitamins. Because let's be honest, no one really wants to admit they're unhappy when everything looks fine. You don't get sympathy. You get suspicion. You don't get help. You get advice. Toxic positivity. Just be grateful. Others have it worse. Choose happiness. So I kept choosing, kept smiling, kept performing the version of myself that people expected. And I was so good at it. Even I started to forget I was acting. Until everything quietly began to fall apart. You don't notice a storm when it builds slowly. At first, it was just fatigue, not the kind that a nap fixes. It was deeper, like my body was there, but my soul kept lagging a few steps behind. Then came the silence. I'd go hours, sometimes days, without really thinking. No joy, no sorrow, just static. People would ask me how I was, and I'd say, busy, because busy is the most socially acceptable form of emotional numbness. Then, like life was tired of my charade, it started to chip away at everything I used to lean on. It began with work. A promotion. I was banking on gone with a single email. "We're restructuring," they said. Suddenly, all the late nights, the weekend calls, the self-worth I had wrapped around my job vanished. I laughed it off in front of others. I guess it wasn't meant to be, I said. But that night, I stared at the ceiling for 6 straight hours, wondering who I was without that title under my name. Next came love, or what I thought was love. We had been together for 3 years. We had the matching mugs, the future plans, the shared playlists. But deep down, we were just two people afraid to be alone, performing commitment like a script we'd both forgotten how to feel. So when she left, it wasn't the breakup that shattered me. It was the realization that I didn't even cry. I just sat there, blank, like someone turned off the color in my world. Then life delivered the final blow. My father, stoic, distant, quietly proud, passed away. No dramatic goodbyes, no last-minute reconciliations. Just a call at 3:17 a.m. and a silence so heavy it rang in my ears. I was expected to fly home, wear black, give a speech, and say words like honor and legacy. And I did, flawlessly. People even said I was so strong. But that strength, it wasn't real. It was what I had left after I ran out of emotions to feel. I became a ghost. I went to work. I posted stories. I laughed at memes. But it was like watching my life through a glass window, always present, never participating. The worst part wasn't the sadness. It was the absence of sadness, the numbness that swallowed everything whole. And in that void, a dangerous thought began to echo. Maybe this is just how life feels now. It's strange how rock bottom doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes, it looks like routine, like brushing your teeth mechanically while staring into your own eyes and feeling nothing, like answering emails at 2 a.m., not because you're ambitious, but because the silence is too loud to sleep in. One night, I remember sitting on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by takeout containers and unread messages, just staring at the wall. No music, no crying, just a hollow hum inside my chest. I wasn't living. I wasn't dying. I was just waiting. For what? I didn't know. And then it happened. Not some grand epiphany. Not an inspiring movie moment. Just a breakdown at the grocery store. I had spent 10 minutes staring at a shelf of cereal, paralyzed. So many choices. So many versions of something meaningless. And right there, in aisle 4 next to a stack of Frosted Flakes, I started to cry. Not the quiet, cinematic tears. No, this was ugly, heaving, desperate sobbing. The kind that makes strangers uncomfortable. The kind that makes you uncomfortable. And when an older woman gently placed her hand on my back and whispered, "It's okay, honey," something broke open. I went home and did something I hadn't done in months. I sat in silence, not to numb, but to listen, to myself. And what I heard was terrifying. I'm not okay. I feel fake. I don't know who I am when no one's watching. That night, I Googled therapists. For the first time in my adult life, I said the words out loud to another human being. I think I'm depressed. It felt like defeat, but it was actually the beginning of everything. Therapy wasn't some magical cure. It was messy, frustrating, slow. There were sessions where I said nothing, others where I couldn't stop crying. I peeled back years of perfectionism, people-pleasing, emotional repression, layer by layer. I realized I had built my life to be impressive, not meaningful. I started journaling. Not the curated kind for social media, but raw, uncensored words I didn't even know were in me. I deleted Instagram for 6 months. Not to detox, but because I couldn't keep performing anymore. I called people I hadn't spoken to in years. Some answered, some didn't. I forgave people who would never apologize. And slowly, I started forgiving myself. There was no single turning point, no trumpet sound or rising sun, just small moments of honesty, strung together like pearls on a fragile thread. Like the first time I laughed and it didn't feel forced, like waking up and not dreading the day ahead, like looking in the mirror and recognizing the person staring back. People often think healing looks like joy, like dancing in the sunlight, posting quotes about self-love, radiating positivity. But for me, healing looked like less. Less pretending, less explaining, less proving. I didn't become a new person. I didn't run a marathon or start a business or write a memoir. What I did was even harder. I stayed in my body, in my mind, in my mess. I stayed long enough to feel again, to be again. There was one morning, I remember it vividly, when I woke up and realized the first thought in my head wasn't heavy. It wasn't guilt or dread or the echo of failure. It was simple, maybe I'll take a walk today. That's it. But it was everything. That walk became 2 walks. Then long drives with no destination. Then coffee with people who saw me, not just my highlight reel. Then writing letters I never sent. Lighting candles I never used to light. And looking up at the sky more than I looked down at my phone. I started living, not performing, not surviving, just living, imperfectly, quietly, but finally, honestly. And that's the thing, no one tells you about being broken inside. You don't need to fix yourself. You just need to find yourself again beneath the noise, beneath the masks, beneath the pressure to be fine. Now, when I smile, it's different. It's not rehearsed. It's not for them. It's for me. Because I've made peace with my shadows, I've learned to sit with my silence, and I've stopped being afraid of my own reflection. So, if you're listening to this right now, and you're smiling while quietly falling apart, if you're posting perfect pictures with a soul that's barely holding on, I want you to know something. You're not alone. You don't have to collapse in public to deserve support. You don't have to justify your sadness to earn compassion. You don't have to keep performing for people who wouldn't notice if you disappeared. You matter, exactly as you are, not as who you pretend to be. And maybe, just maybe, the most courageous thing you'll ever do is whisper the words, "I'm not okay," and let that be the beginning of your return to yourself. Now, I'll leave you with one question. How many people around you are smiling while quietly breaking inside? And how many of them need you to notice? If this story found you at the right time, or maybe at a time when everything feels wrong, I just want to say thank you for listening. Sometimes, hearing someone else name the darkness helps us recognize our own. And sometimes, the smallest stories are the ones that hold us together when we feel like coming apart. If this made you pause, if it made you feel seen, or if you thought of someone else who might be smiling on the outside but aching on the inside, send this their way. Let it be a quiet lifeline. And if you'd like more stories that speak to the quiet battles we all carry, subscribe to this channel, not because you're expected to, but because maybe, just maybe, you want to build a space where honesty is safe, and healing doesn't have to be loud to be real. You're not alone here, and you never were.